Right off the bat, it's not working.
Who's the expert on the pictures?
Just got to put it on just slideshow.
Yeah, I don't think so. Perfect start. Maybe just click on it. No, how about this? Something's up. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
It'll disappear.
It'll go away. Yeah. Okay, so that's who I am. I'm not going to read through the slides, and especially the ones that are obvious. I'm a psychologist in California. I have 2 children myself through assisted reproduction. They're 13 and 16. And it's been my pleasure to help a lot of people have babies. Okay, so ethical family building through surrogacy and egg donation. Essentially, I use the term ethical surrogacy to describe the way we do surrogacy in the major agencies in the United States. Karen was up here earlier, and she and I, we are on the same page about this. Surrogacy is a collaboration of lots of people, so it's a team effort coming together of a whole bunch of people to help somebody become a parent. And that's the surrogate, the donor, the doctor, the lawyer, you, parent, even the cab driver, your family, your friends. It's really a huge collaborative effort with one goal in mind. I'm going to talk today specifically about the surrogate and the egg donor as the two of the integral parts of that collaboration. Talk about who they are, why they do it, and what I, over the years of doing this, have come to believe are the ingredients of ethical family building. Okay, so surrogates, who are they? Ideally, surrogates are women who've had their own children, they love being pregnant, they have a strong support network, they don't have to be married, but if they're not married, they have to have a significant support around them, and we do screen that support so we know they really exist. I think Karen mentioned that earlier. We meet them and talk to them. They're physically and emotionally healthy. They're fully screened medically, psychologically, and legally. They're financially secure. They're good communicators. It is a relationship, after all. And they have no history of drug or alcohol abuse. They're non-smokers, have no criminal past, and they want to help someone ultimately getting the gift of life. Okay, meet Carrie and her husband John from Modesto, California, first-time surrogate. And in her own words, my family and I have chosen to be a surrogate for a few reasons. This is a priceless gift that I can share with someone who wants the greatest joy you can have in life, being a parent. I'll be teaching my children a valuable lesson in giving. Carrie. Christina, third-time surrogate. These are real people. In Christina's own words, I first came to surrogacy because I felt a strong longing to assist other couples in their quest for creating a family. Having my own children came so easily for me, I always held a place in my heart for those on a longer path. My past 2 surrogacy experiences brought such love and joy to my whole family, I find it exciting to begin a 3rd journey. A little taste of the surrogate's own words, and you're going to hear from some real life surrogates in a little while. All right, egg donors, who are they? Ideally, they're between the ages of 21 and 30, physically and emotionally healthy, fully screened medically, psychologically, legally, and genetically, have no family risk of high risk of genetic disorders, have no history of drug or alcohol abuse, are non-smokers. They don't feel attachment to their eggs as their children, and they're willing to remain anonymous, or they're willing to meet the parents of the offspring, and they want to help someone become a parent by giving the ultimate gift. Egg donor Sarah. I want to live life to the fullest. Giving the gift of life to a family or individual would be an amazing experience that I would love to be a part of to enrich my own life. Egg donor Caitlin. I have a friend who donated, and I asked her about the process. Although it sounded physically challenging, I could tell that she found it to be a very rewarding experience. I like the idea of getting to contribute to someone out there who will truly appreciate being able to start a family. I show you those slides because I want you to understand that surrogates are an integral part of the process. They're not just a womb. They have opinions, they have feelings about what they're doing. They are doing it because they want to collaborate, to be a partner with you in helping you to become a parent. It's already been said earlier by my colleagues, they don't all want to have a buddy-buddy relationship. Sometimes they really just want to be appreciated while they're going through it and hello and goodbye at the end. Sometimes they want to have a relationship. What's important is matching the expectations of the parents with the surrogate, but understanding that surrogates are people who are willingly going into this process to be part of the team. A little levity. No, I don't have a dad. Mom says the vet came to see her one day and I was born a few months later. I like collecting IVF humor cartoons. Okay. Surrogates and egg donors, why do they do it? My colleague, Michael, earlier said to me, they do it because they can. It's true, they do it because they can, because they want to. But from a psychological perspective, and after all, I'm a psychologist, so that's where I look, surrogates and egg donors are motivated by a healthy mix of narcissism and altruism. They know that not everybody can do it, that they can, and they want to be able to give the ultimate gift. They're very philanthropic by nature. They would give lots of money if they could. They are often blood donors, and they see this as a way to help their own families understand philanthropy and giving. Okay, oops, sorry about that. Okay, ingredients of ethical family building that lead to the most positive outcome. Informed consent. I'm going to talk about each of these in a moment. Actually, I'm not going to read them to you right now. I'm going to go through them one by one. Okay, informed consent. This is truly the most important ingredient in this process. Surrogates, donors, parents need to know what they're getting into. It needs to be talked about at the outset. There shouldn't be any surprises beyond the medical surprises that we can't control. But there are so many aspects of this process that we can't control. We really need to be doing a good job with those. So all parties must be totally informed about their choices, about the risks. They have to know that they can stop the process. As long as they're not pregnant, they can walk away with no jeopardy. And they have to be entering into the arrangement free of coercion, by money or power, which is why when somebody comes to me and they're going to be a surrogate for their employer, I have a little problem with that. Or somebody's paying them, $100,000. That's a lot of money, and people will do things they wouldn't otherwise do for that. Okay, so the second ingredient after informed consent assessment. We do complete psychological assessments of surrogates and donors prior to matching. We need to know that they don't have any pre-existing mental illness, and it's not good enough for them just to tell us, because they, as I think Karen talked about earlier, they don't remember a lot of their history, and they need to be fully screened in the present. And the screening not only rules out any kind of mental illness or problem emotionally that might interfere with a successful journey, but also thoroughly assesses their motivation, their expectations, what they see their role. One of my trick questions is, do you have any desires or preferences regarding the upbringing of the child? And there's really kind of only one variety of answer, and that's like, yeah, that they're happy. Yeah, but if I start to hear lots of specific details, I'm concerned about what that surrogate sees her role as. Because although she is integral to this journey, she's not the parent of the child. My staff all know that I cannot be trusted with technology, so I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Additional screenings, and I'm not going to go through too much detail because Karen did a great job. But we do collect medical records, OB records, financial status. We want to make sure that they have an income or their husband has an income, so they're not depending on the surrogacy money to eat. Again, we verify their support network. They have a criminal background check. And all of those findings are shared with the parents. Okay. It's imperative that all of the team members are well screened and educated about the surrogacy journey and that they understand their roles. And success is measured in having a baby, but that's not really good enough. It's also measured in what the journey is like for all the parties. Okay, so these are the ingredients of an ethical surrogacy relationship. And they are trust as a foundation. It's not blind trust, do whatever we say, but it is a relationship. And if there isn't trust, then it doesn't work. It really is about a collaboration of essentially total strangers. And if you cannot come to a place of trusting each other, you won't be able to work together. Secondly is transparency, openness, and honesty. So we don't want any surprises. We don't want to find out anything about a surrogate or parents or donor that we didn't already know. So we talk about all of this at the beginning. We do a match meeting in person where people meet. Occasionally we'll do a match meeting via Skype, and then they meet before the transfer, but they have to meet in person before the embryo transfer. And we talk about their expectations for their relationship, communication, for what they'll do if the surrogate's on bed rest. What will they do if there's something wrong with the baby? All of the things that could happen we talk about. And then those things are codified in a contract, and we stick with them. Communication is an essential ingredient. And it's not just enough that people communicate with each other. How they communicate is important, and that they communicate. You know, if a surrogate leaves a message for the parents, and then the parents look at the message and say, well, I'm going to return that call tonight after I've had a chance to think about it. And then tonight they're tired, and then tomorrow is work, and then 2 days go by. You know, the surrogate may start to feel, what's going on? Do they care? Do they have time to have a baby? So I always tell people, forget about sending the perfect poetic email. Just shoot back a text. Love ya, great, super busy, talk to you in 3 days. So it's not just what we communicate with each other, but that we stay in communication with each other, and same obviously goes in the other direction. Mutual respect. I don't know if I need to say much about that. I think it's pretty obvious that that's a super important part of the way that we do surrogacy. Commitment. So the road to parenthood through third-party assisted reproduction, I do not need to tell any of you this. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It takes a long time. It's imperative that all people in the process stay committed, are willing to be inconvenienced, and keep their eye on the prize, which is seeing you holding your baby. That's the prize. All right, so the choices you make, I made this in big letters because it's this important to me. The choices you make every step of the way create the story you will tell. Make good choices so that you can be proud of your story. And I know later there's going to be talk about what to tell the children, and it's a very important concept of being able to tell your children their story, because trust me, they want to know. They want to know every little detail that you don't even think is important. And you want to make choices that you are proud to tell them about. Okay, so parents are encouraged to tell children the age-appropriate truth. Share whatever feels the most comfortable and appropriate as they go through it. Avoid lying and deceit. And again, children want to know where they come from. I mean, they all want to know. They want to know from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. The thing that gets in our way with third party is if we think that there's something wrong with what we've done, even a little bit wrong, we feel hesitant to tell our kids. But truthfully, our kids have no idea that they're conceived in any way that's different from anyone else. They just want to know the truth about where they come from. Now that you're older, we think it's time you knew that your dog is adopted. I have a whole collection of these. I'm not going to bore you with too many more. Okay. So for people who want to be parents, having children is one of the greatest joys of a life. For anyone who needs help, ethical surrogacy and egg donation is a wonderful, collaborative way to fulfill the path to parenthood. And the result? Happy families created through ethical family building using third-party assisted reproduction. And here are some families. That's my family. That's my wife and my 2 kids. And then here are some other families, all of them created using surrogacy and egg donation. nothing like the real families, so I figured that should be your feel. Some of you may recognize these colleagues and friends. They're all on your permission, by the way. Yeah. This was actually at the White House egg roll. When Obama was elected, he invited a bunch of gay and lesbian families. My family was there also because the previous administration had refused a group of gay and lesbian families to participate in what is a national event on the White House. So this is a family that did attend. This is an interesting one. The surrogate is in the middle, and on either side are the two families that she helped who have since become friends. So she had two sets of twins, one set on one side and one on the other. I think the older ones are 5 and the younger ones are 3. One big attitude. And they have a really hard time getting those twins to both look at the camera. This is the best picture of the 4 of them. It's pretty funny. They've got their hands down. Okay. So, questions?
Okay, thank you, Kim, very much. Kept beautifully to time, so we're actually ahead of time, which is fantastic. Any questions for Kim? Yes?
How often does a mismatching occur?
That's a really good question. She asked how often does a mismatching occur. I'll tell you the truth, at Growing Generations, and I'm positive this is true for Karen as well, very rarely, because we do our homework at the beginning. So we spend a great deal of time at the beginning getting to know both the surrogate and the clients and getting to know what their preferences are. And we don't just, kind of like you're next and you're next and you're together. So we have a whole matrix of things that we match you on. When you're in the admissions phase of the process, you're talking to the attorney to figure out what states are the right state for you, and that's going to depend on where you live and your marital status and some other things like that, how parental rights will be established. You're going to be talking to the doctor. Do you want twins? Do you specifically not want twins? And then we're also going to be looking at your personality. Are you warm and fuzzy? Are you more formal? Do you want to talk to the surrogate every day? Do you want to talk to her once a month? And we're getting to know the surrogate in the same way. So the way that we do the matching process, we show you and her each other's profile on paper. It's not a catalog of surrogates, the one that we feel is the right match. And if you don't like the person on paper, that's fine, then we will find the next person that we think is a good candidate. But if you like each other on paper, then we'll bring you in and do the matchmaking. So really, it is very, very, very rare that at the point of the match, people don't want to work together after meeting, spending a lot of time together. We do a formal match meeting in the office, and then they go out and have a meal together and spend some social time together. If, however, it did happen that after all that you don't like each other, then there's no jeopardy at all, other than time, which is real. But you would essentially be back at the top of the waiting list until we find the next. We don't wait, not finding a surrogate for you, the way that we do it and the way that CSP does it. We're constantly screening a pool of surrogates that are spending 6 months in our screening pipeline getting ready to be matched. So at any given time we have a bunch of clients kind of waiting and a bunch of surrogates, and as their screenings get complete, then we go ahead and do the matching.
I'm just wondering if there's ever a mismatch between the child's feelings towards either the donors or the surrogate and what the parents are looking for. So whether the parents want to more detached and up sort of bringing, or whether the child then wants to sort of be how that's worked out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Karen actually can answer that better because she has much older children than I do. Our Growing Generation's oldest kids are about 14 or 15. She has kids that are adults. But generally speaking, it is up to the parents. So when you choose an egg donor, you choose a donor that's either identity release or not, or open or not, different words, but they all mean the same thing. Also, You can meet your donor before you go through the process. That's an option as well. You know, the information rests with you, and the relationship you have with the surrogate rests with you once the baby's born. Obviously, we hope everybody's on the same page, and usually they are. The surrogates are, you know, they're really in this to help you have a family, and if they make a friend along the way, that's really gravy for them. So they really do honor and respect the parents' wishes. On a sort of tangential note, as a psychologist, I have seen, and I have worked in the family building community for much longer than I've been doing surrogacy, because I worked with lesbian couples with donor insemination 20 plus years ago. And those kids that are told the truth from an early age, like what the real truth is. So not there's some woman who's your mommy who lives in America and daddy and papa moved back here without her. Not that. Okay? The real story. Like daddy and papa wanted to have a baby so badly, but there were parts we needed from another person. So a really nice woman named Jane helped us. Of course, this is age appropriate, so it's going to change through the years. But this is really, I'm talking about when the baby's a baby and they really don't even understand what you're talking about. But, you know, we hold our children and we say, oh, first thing I saw was your hair and you held my finger. We're talking to infants who don't understand that either. So I'm talking about, like, all the other things we tell the babies from the beginning that they kind of don't understand. So, you know, when you tell your story and it's a story based on love and collaboration and commitment and people really wanting to help you, in those children, there is a great deal of literature in lesbian moms and kids, and there's actually several studies right now ongoing in the U.S. The kids who are told the truth from a very early age, and oh, by the way, the adoption literature completely mirrors this. Adopted kids who are told the truth from a very early age have a much healthier outcome. So, you know, then I think we may find children who are curious, but don't necessarily feel like something's wrong or missing.
You clearly go through a very stringent process to ensure the surrogate is doing that for the right reason. So what's your response to these arguments that we seem to get in Australia against commercial surrogacy, that the surrogate is exploited?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, honestly, I've spoken all over Europe, and in Europe, it's hard to believe I know, but they are even more sort of behind the times in Australia on this issue. Honestly, it's just ignorance, innocent ignorance. I think that if I could put anybody in a room with a surrogate, a real live surrogate, they would understand within an hour of speaking to the surrogate what surrogacy is about. But most people don't have that exposure, and it's easy to think that women are being exploited and paid a lot of money and plucked from their families and, you know, doing things they wouldn't otherwise do. But I am telling you, I know there's surrogates in the room. When you hear the surrogates after you hear them, you're going to say, yeah, you're right. When you speak with a surrogate for 5 minutes, your mind will be changed. And actually, I have that experience a lot with parents who come in and they, you know, they're very concerned. How do I know she won't keep the baby? How do I know, you know, all that? As soon as we do the match meeting, I literally, if I had a penny for every time, I get an email or phone call, Kim, you were right. What were we thinking? She's amazing. And it's not that surrogates they are special people, but it's just they're decent people. They're really wonderful people with the right motivation for why they're doing what they're doing. And that's why screening is so important, informed consent is so important. Because look, we have hundreds of surrogates apply to our program every month. I'm sure Karen is exactly the same. We take 3% of the applicants make it through our program. Is that about the same for you? Yeah. That's 3 out of 100 people who apply to our program over a 6-month screening process make it to being a surrogate. And it's just not for everybody. But for those people who it is for, it is genuine and it is wonderful. And I think people just don't know.
When you're screening intended parents, why would you reject them?
We don't do a psych screening on intended parents.
Why not?
We have a philosophy about it. Grow Generations was started specifically to help gay men have babies because there wasn't a lot of help for gay men. So we took a position that we're a door to parenthood and not a gate. We felt like because gay men and infertile couples need help with a third party doesn't really warrant them being psychologically screened, just they can't do it on their own. It's our philosophy. It's not the same with every U.S. agency. We do a criminal background check on every client, and we do lengthy consultations and education. And we have turned people away if we felt like they were not well suited to surrogacy.
That's not protecting the surrogate, then they could have crazy intended parents.
Well, yes, except that we get to know our parents over, months and months, and we haven't had any parents go crazy on us. So we've had 1,030 babies born, and we have had 2 sets of intended parents change their mind and not take the baby. In both cases, the babies were adopted by strangers. But we have never had parents go crazy on us, and we've never had surrogates either change their mind, even threaten to change their mind. Yeah.
You talk a lot about getting to know the surrogate. Some people keep in touch. It's intended parents' choice. How many intended parents keep in touch with the 8 donors?
Not many, but it's changing. The whole field is changing in the U.S. toward a much more open, non-anonymous donation. It's a subtle change. I mean, it used to be that donors were all anonymous. Now there's lots and lots of places where you can get non-anonymous donors. However, most donors, even if they're not anonymous, don't particularly want to have a relationship with the parents. They may say, look, 20 years from now, if they knock on my door, I'm willing to meet them and see them. I'd be curious if I were them, so I respect that. But they don't really want to be part of the family. They don't want a relationship. They don't want to watch the child grow up, any of that. And they don't feel compelled to meet the child. They're just willing to meet the child. And, I think it's very personal. But it is also why we screen the donors really thoroughly. Because, see, what's really important here is it is a collaborative effort, but everybody does have a prescribed role. So the donor is very important. Genetic material, for sure, but not the mother. So we don't want the donor to be feeling like I'm the mother. That would not be an appropriate egg donor because it wouldn't protect her or the child or the family.
Kim, a follow-up question to the situation of the known donor. The known donor might not particularly want to have a continuing relationship with the child. But what about the extended family? The known donor's parents, for example, might want to be grandparents to that child. What about that approach?
Yeah, well, so he asked about the extended family of a known donor. This would be why I would recommend thorough and ongoing multiple conversations with experts before you enter into an arrangement with a known donor or an anonymous donor. There are pros and cons to both, but really all of those issues need to be talked about at the beginning. So if you have a known donor and as you're talking to her about the process in the future, and she lets you know that her parents are going to be the grandchild, if that is not what you want, then you would not enter into that relationship. You'd have to make a choice. I don't want that, or I want this donor so much and this is perfect, I'll live with that. But you need to talk about all of those issues. And everybody needs to be screened. Even a known donor needs to be screened, psychologically screened, because I can't tell you, if I had to say who doesn't pass screening, it's known donors. Because they are going into it for the right reason of, I love you and I want to help you, but they have no idea what they're getting themselves into in terms of what it really means to be an egg donor.
Absolutely.
Thanks, very informative. I was just wondering, so with family members or friends and stuff like that that know egg donor that gets involved in the process, is there a chance that they could, in fact, be rejected?
Yes. There absolutely is a chance. I mean, there are, yeah, I'm sorry, he asked if with a known donor there was a chance that they could be rejected. And yes, there is a chance they could be rejected. And what I've done, you know, it's sticky because you want to protect the donors, the potential donors' privacy. But if she doesn't pass the screening, or I don't think, or a professional doesn't think she's a good candidate, it's not ethical to let her go forward. So in those cases, I've usually worked with the donor to come up with a good explanation for why it's not going to go forward, and let her tell the story, let her figure it out. But yeah, absolutely. There are doctors who will let you waive that screening. I highly recommend against it. The cases in the U.S. that have gone the worst have been with family members. Sisters carrying twins for the brother, that terrible case, you know, people using their brother as a sperm donor, the egg donor, the cousin. Those cases are the ones that have gone really poorly. Not all of them, but the ones, some of the cases that have gone the worst have been those kind of cases.
Right, time for one more question, and I'm going to ask it if I can, Kim.
Sure.
The law in California says that the intended mother is the mother of the child. If the child is born abnormal or has cerebral palsy or something, does that mean that the parents have to take it under the law in California, or can they say they don't want it?
No, it doesn't mean they have to take it.
Right.
Actually, one of the cases, of our cases that didn't take the children, I'll tell you, it's a quick story, but they had twins that were born quite early, and they didn't feel equipped to deal with the many physical issues. So one of the things, before intended parents can be matched with a surrogate, they have to designate 3 sets of alternate guardians. So if, let's say, they got killed in a plane crash or something happened to them, they've already designated, just like when the children are alive, who would take over that child. So in this case, the parents walked, actually, and we went to the first guardian, and they put the children up for adoption, and they were actually adopted by another couple in the same hospital whose twins had perished at the same gestational age. It's really kind of a touching story, but yeah, I mean, in California, you can abandon your child even if it's healthy and normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it would go to the state or to a guardian that's appointed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Kim. You can get back to your question.